What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, this is TW Motorsports, and today, you guessed it, we are going to get the motor at least started coming out of this truck. So in the last video on this truck, you guys saw me take the transmission out. It is still sitting there. I need to get that thing delivered to my dad at some point. But what have we done already other than the transmission? The only thing I've done is I released all the fluid, or I'm hoping a majority of the fluid, out of the radiator. All I did was take this guy out down here on the driver's side. So, and then obviously the battery's already unplugged. So we are ready to get started dismantling this thing. As you guys may or may not know, we are going to a 5.3 V8, and so that is sitting right here. I've got it all cleaned up and ready. As a matter of fact, I have the heads back. They are sitting right there, and you can see all the parts off the motor. I still have to clean up, and oh my gosh, what a mess, guys. But anyway, I'm going to try to show you guys as much as I can, as far as step by step, just like I did with the transmission, on what you have to do to get this 4.3 out of here. Now, could we have done this project? This project can honestly probably be done in one day, one long day, if you pull the trans and everything out and it's ready to go in. But I wanted to do a few things to that, which you guys will see in coming videos. But I wanted to clean everything up, so I'm not going to be doing it in one day. This is going to take probably a month, if not longer, which you guys probably won't notice, but just working on it a little bit each night and just cleaning things up, because once I get the motor out, we're going to roll this thing out. I'm going to give a good scrub down to everything that's under the hood and just make sure things are nice and tidy. I don't like doing things halfway. So anyway, I'm going to grab a couple things. I think we're going to start right here with the radiator shroud, or the radiator cover, and then we'll probably go to the intake, maybe the fan shroud. And so we'll just kind of work our way little by little. I'll talk to you guys about sizes, what I'm using, and we'll go from there. So just like in videos past, I will be tagging and bagging everything I'm removing out of this thing. So some of this stuff we won't be reusing, like the radiator shroud, because we'll be going to an electric fan setup. Obviously the duct work and a lot of the bolts, because I'm going to try to keep the motor as whole as possible. But radiator hoses, stuff like that, I don't have to tag and bag everything, but because I'm going to be putting this motor in my dad's truck, if we happen to lose anything, it'd be nice to have it bagged up. So all this stuff I'm taking out, like I said, I will be tagging and bagging, but we're going to start with these little clips that hold this radiator cover on, and they're just one of these pairs of pliers makes life really, really easy for you, because you can just pop these things out relatively quickly. So I'm going to get these out of the way, and then we will move on probably to the intake tube and then the radiator support. So once that's out of the way, I'm going to have to find a spot to store stuff. Can't wait for my garage, guys. So once that, like I said, once that's out of the way, I'm going to take a flathead screwdriver. We're going to undo the intake tube here, or at least try to. And then it's just got a little plastic screw piece. You can see the motor's really loose now that the transmission's not hooked to it. And I already evac'd the AC. It actually worked on this truck, but if you haven't done that, you probably need to have that done, unless you're just going to let it out. And there is a tube that goes down to the intake. You're probably going to have to unplug down here. Sometimes it comes loose and sometimes it doesn't. There we go. Get that out of the way. And now onto the fan here. So the fan blade, or the radiator fan cover, is it's got the same style of push clips on both sides here. And then it has obviously a couple 10mm bolts on the top side. Now that gets the top off. Once we get that out of the way, we should have a little more access to the fan itself. I'm going to try to take it off. On these trucks, you don't have to knock a big center nut loose. You can generally unbolt them, so hopefully that'll be the case. So once you get all that loosened up, this guy comes out of place. And I think my next move will probably be this guy. I don't know. We'll see. may have to see. I may go ahead and take the lower out here. It's nothing really holds it in. It kind of sets in a clip down below. So much room here when you don't have a V8. It's kind of ridiculous. The other thing I need to probably do is get this thing down on the ground instead of trying to reach over like I'm doing currently. I had it up so high because of the transmission, but now that we got the transmission out, I think I'm going to let this thing down. So at this point, before I remove anything else under the hood, I want to get the wiring harness loose from the passenger side frame rail. So you can see the oxygen sensor, the rear oxygen sensor here, the front oxygen sensor, and then this goes up, trying to squeeze in tight quarters here. This goes up the firewall, and so we need to get all this loose because I'm going to drag the harness out at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and get this loose. It's just pinned to the frame, and then we'll go back up top and start disassembling some more stuff. While I'm down here, I might go ahead and take these two out for this plate. I believe they're 18, and then there's one that comes up here from the bottom. I believe it's an 18 as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take all that stuff loose, and then, like I said, we'll go back up top and keep removing, trying to fold the harness kind of towards the center of the motor. And I think probably AC lines, stuff. I'd like to, like I said, I'd like to pull it out all at one time. So mainly the harness is what I want to get while I'm down here. I may or may not take this guy out. I'm not really sure yet. So I've decided after getting that harness loose, and I didn't take that bar loose on the bottom. Now that the harness is loose, I'm going to go ahead and get the radiator out of place. So two 10 millimeters, or actually 13 millimeters up top here, and the radiator should be loose. Now we will have to use a pair of pliers to release the upper radiator hose, the lower radiator hose, and the feed from the reservoir here. Now you also have two transcooler lines that are similar to the clips that we removed off the transmission, and I'll pop those out, get those out of the way. But this thing is dripping all over, and I'd like to get a majority of that cleaned up so I'm not stepping in it, and give it some time to dry out before we remove anything else. Also, before I get the AC lines out, I really need the radiator kind of out of the way so I can reach down and get the line that goes into the bottom of the condenser. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that stuff loose, and then like I said, we'll probably move on to the AC lines, or at least I'm hoping after that. So after pulling the radiator out, we've made a gob of room to grab the AC line. So 15 millimeter on the top of this guy, and then I believe it's a 15, actually that's a 13 back there, and then you need to come up and get the one that comes in the top here, which I believe is a 13 or a 10. Grab my light here, this guy here. And so there's a little bit of a curtain type deal right here that you can pull back and get access to that, but we need that guy completely out of the way. I actually think that the other one will be able to stay in the truck. Now I might tape off the end here, and then obviously the end there before I do any washing or anything. But I'm going to go ahead and get that out of the way because that's a huge tie-on point, as you can see, to the motor. It kind of goes a little bit everywhere. Now that we got that out of the way, I'm going to move on to these lines. So we're going to have to pull this guy up and unplug the main harness, kind of like we did when we removed the motor out of the blue truck. Which once I get it flipped over, I'll show you which one. But I will tell you guys, you have two grounds. One that obviously goes over to the motor, but the other one goes way down under the bumper, and I'm not going to take it off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this apart and separate it. That way I can separate these two lines, the one that goes with the motor and then the one that actually stays on the truck. Same thing on this guy. One goes into the fuse block here, and the other one goes to the hot side here on the motor. So I'm going to go ahead and get those disconnected, and then I'll try to get this box flipped up where you guys can see exactly what harness that we need to pull off of it. So to get to this point, there's a couple things you have to remove. There's a bar that holds this for 13 millimeters. We took that off. I went in and took the battery bar off here, and then the other positive connection other than the one that goes to the motor actually bolts on right here to the box. So all that's removed, and there's a series of clips. Obviously we've got the top off here, but there's a series of clips that we need to roll this thing over, and there's several things that we need to unplug. The main one being this guy here. It's a 7 millimeter. We need to get this guy unplugged, and then there's a blue plug down here in the bottom. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'll try to move you a little closer closer. There's a blue plug down here in the bottom and a black plug, and there's one other black plug. So you'll see, because it's all tied into that main harness that goes on top of the motor, those are the things that we need to get unplugged. And then we can set this thing back into place. Now that I got those plugs unclipped, you can see they go down to the computer, and I went ahead and popped the plastic cover off. I don't have a ton of light out here, guys, sorry. So now I'm going to go ahead and unlatch the computer. You can see the latch there on the top. Once I do that, then I'll be able to fold all this stuff kind of over, you know, kind of on top of the motor. I might go ahead and take this off just because it sticks out so far. It's just a 10 millimeter, or actually a 13 millimeter back here that holds that plate on. I think I probably will do that just because it, like I said, it sticks out a little too far. And it also gets it out of the way for the power steering pump, which honestly, I don't know how much is left in it because it looks like it's leaking pretty bad, but I am going to try to suck as much out of it as possible before I unhook the lines, just to try to save me a little bit of a mess. So after I get this piece off, that folded over, I'm going to get like a turkey baster and pull out as much fluid as I can out of the reservoir, just like I said, so I don't get a ton of mess when I take it loose. So you can see that I went ahead and loosened the two lines that go to the power steering, and it did cause a mess, but not as much because I did clear it out, like I said, with the turkey baster just to get it cleaned out. But now a majority of this side is complete. I do have to fold this the two power lines over the motor, but I need to unhook the throttle cable, which is this guy here, and if you just swing that up, it unhooks, and then there's a little plastic clip that goes right here in this guy. So man, I can't do this with one hand, that's for sure. This right here. So you should be able to unclip this from the back side, and you should be able to do it by hand. I think I will be able to with two hands. But once we get that unclipped, then we're going to move on to unclipping all these lines. So that line that I unhooked that goes under the truck comes up here, hooks to the bottom of your tank here and your mass airflow, and then it hooks to the AC and goes along the back. Now these guys just pull off, literally just pull straight off. They're kind of zip tied with a hook that sets on the end of a nut there. So I'm going to get that stuff out of the way, and then I'm not really sure where we're going to go next. We may have to go under the truck to unhook the fuel lines, because when they come out of the actual throttle body here, they go back underneath of the distributor cap. So depending on whether I want to take the distributor cap off, and I really don't think I want to, we may have to get underneath to get the fuel lines unplugged. So I was able to get all that stuff off the firewall and unplugged over here, including the mass airflow sensor. So now I still have a few more things I need to unhook, like the lines that go into the cab for the heater core. You can see those back there, just two clips to get those loose. And then I'm either going to have to unhook this junction down here that came out of the lower radiator, or I'm going to have to unhook the one that goes to the bottom of the water pump. And I think I'll probably do the water pump one. But other than that, I think at that point we'll have to lift it up, like I said, and we're going to disconnect the fuel lines. And then, guys, we're pretty close. I'll probably go ahead and pull that bracket that I was talking about earlier, as well as the motor mounts, and we'll talk about that once I get under it. But I'm going to go ahead and pull these things loose, and we're going to be really, really close. So at this point, I think I've got everything unhooked that we need to unhook up top. So I've got all the wiring harness kind of laid up over the engine. I have everything other than the fuel lines. There's an evap line back there, which I think I'm going to try to get to from the bottom side. I'll show you guys that. And then other than that, the brake booster here, I'm going to go ahead and unplug it. And guys, you know, I originally said that I was going to take the fan off, and the reason I said that is I thought maybe I could sneak this thing off with the hood on, but I think I'm going to go ahead and take the hood off just so I don't damage it in any way by hitting the bottom side of it. I did go ahead and unplug this, just a 10 millimeter here, and then you need to undo your clip. The other thing though is there is a 10 millimeter that holds a ground strap that goes to the back of the head I need to undo. But then we'll get under the car and take a look and make sure that that's everything, but I'm pretty sure that it is, and we can get this thing yanked out. But like I said, I will show you guys the bottom of it so you can kind of see where the fuel lines hook up. It might be a pretty good reach, but we should be able to get to them from the bottom. So if you follow the fuel lines right up behind the motor, you can see we should be able to get up in there with a wrench and loosen those up. Now, if you don't want to do it that way, there is one other option. You can, underneath the distributor cap, there's a plate that holds that on, and then you can undo the fuel line at the throttle body. So it's totally up to you guys whether you want to take it out from the bottom. Like I said, I think I'll be able to reach it. I don't think I'll have an issue. And other than that, down here, I am going to go ahead and take out the motor mounts. So the, I think they're 21 millimeter, these guys here, these two. And then, like I said earlier, I was going to take this cross member out, but I hadn't done it yet. 18s on it, I believe, and those may be 18 up top too, now that I look at them. And then I believe there's a 15 that comes in this hole in the bottom. So we'll get all of that out, and the motor will be loose, completely loose, and ready to loosen, basically take out. So I'm going to have to find a spot. There's a hook on the front of the block in order to hook it, but I don't think that's going to be enough. I'm going to try to find a spot on the passenger side so I can kind of strap a chain across it. So at this point, you can see I've got the hood off, I've got everything loose. I will tell you guys I was unable to unhook the fuel line, so I had to unhook them, the 8 millimeters that put these two little lines on the inside, and then there's a 10 millimeter that holds a plate. But now everything's loose. Went ahead and slid the motor mounts out, and you can see I've got it lifted a little. There is a hook on this side, and I went around the exhaust manifold on the other side. So I think with the hood out of the way, we'll jack it up a little bit, and we should be able to get it out at this point. So you might notice that I had to turn the motor sideways in order to get it out. Honestly guys, I probably should have went ahead and taken the fan off, but what I'm gonna do is, I'm caught here on the motor mount on the other side, so I'm gonna go ahead and take it loose, just 15 millimeters, and then we should have it the rest of the way out. So as you can see, we are finished up. This is a couple days later, but guys, I had to roll it out of the garage in order to get the engine and everything out, and then I had my wife and son help me push it back in. But we are clear, and so now the cleaning process starts. It's not, like I said, it's probably one of those jobs you could do pretty quickly, but I'm gonna take my time. We've got some more stuff to remove. I'm gonna take the battery out. You can see there's some rust on the battery tray, which is pretty common. Clean that up. I'm gonna take the air box out, I guess you would call it, and the overflow tank, and clean that stuff up underneath. And I thought at first I was going to power wash it, but I think I might just do it with some rags and some cleaner. And you could see look at all those leaves down there on that ridge for the radiator. So I've got a good bit of cleaning to do, and so in the next video guys, I will be doing that. I will be pulling some more of this stuff apart. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that first or do a little more on the engine, not really sure, but we're there, right? So it's out and we're ready to start cleaning and then go back together. So if you guys like this video, like always, please smash that thumbs up button. If you are not subscribed, guys, you got to get subscribed because we have a ton of stuff coming on this as well as everything else. While you're down there subscribing, make sure you ring that bell icon. That notifies you every single time we drop a new video. And well, stay tuned to see us get this thing back on the road.